All right, welcome back. This is Haplin, and I am about to walk you through a very important part of client acquisition, conducting a sales call. So let us start by setting the stage. You've done your prospecting outreach and are hopefully continuing to do that. You never want to stop prospecting, but you've received a positive response or hopefully more. You've got them on your calendar, you've done your homework, you've called the business, ensured that they don't already have some kind of system in place for dealing with missed calls, and you have confidence that you have a solution that's going to really help them. You've both showed up to a Zoom meeting, and now what? Well, that's what we're going to cover right now. Just like prospecting, there are many ways to make a sale, many sales philosophies out there in the world, and we don't purport to have the magic bullet or the best approach to sales, but we do want to arm you with something so that if you're a total beginner, if you're starting from scratch, if you've never sold anything, fear not. We've got a really easy framework to go through a sales process. The first is chit chat. Second, welcome and framing, qualification, the pitch, objection handling, and ending. So just 6 little steps, and the whole call should take about 15 to maybe a half an hour at most. Now, before we even get into these specific pieces of the sales call, I do just want to take a second to acknowledge and affirm that you should be following some kind of standardized process. Whether it's this one that I'm about to go over or a different one, try to standardize your sales calls. You want to get to the point where you're saying the same thing every time, where you have a good kind of clear understanding of the way these calls go. It helps build confidence and experience, and repeatability allows you to listen back to your previous sales calls to hear what you did well, what you could have done differently. It helps you get better as a salesperson. When you swing the same exact way, when you step up to bat, that's how you become a better batter. On the other hand, if every time you get on a Zoom call, it's going every which possible direction, then there's not really any meaning to KPIs. You don't really know exactly how to improve. But if you start by standardizing it and then making scientific adjustments, isolating variables, etc., what if I approach it this way? What if I add this into the offer? What if I deal with this objection differently? Or even just noting responses. I'm noticing these people all kind of seem to have similar responses to this part of the call. Maybe I want to consider changing that. It just allows you to have a clear understanding and have clear vision of what your sales process actually looks like. So that all said, I'm excited to go through this one. Let's get into it. First is chit chat. When we first get on the call, we don't go straight into business. We just want to say hi first. There's going to be a specific part of the call called welcome and framing that comes next. That is kind of like starting the stopwatch of the call, like let's get started. And it's a really helpful framing mechanism. If we try to get straight into that, then it's just not going to work as well. So we start by just saying, hi, good to see you. How's your week going so far? They say, glorious. We say, wonderful. Love to hear it. Where are you calling from? I'm in San Diego. We make a joke. The California coast. How's the snow? Like I said before, this is not the welcome. The welcome comes next, and that's when we get a little bit more official. But yeah, right now we're just kind of chit-chatting. Don't butter them up, don't overdo it, just make a human connection, and don't spend too much time because we're busy entrepreneurs and we've got other calls to get to. So we just want to keep things professional and courteous, and when the time is right, move into welcome and framing. This is a helpful way to feel like there's an official starting point to the call. The official starting point was not when we first got on. This is really it, and I like to script this out. It's usually a good idea to say this part word for word. Not everything is a script. You don't have to memorize every single little thing, but this part I feel like is helpful because it's really making sure that we start on the right foot. Say something like, well, I know we're both busy. I've got you for about 20 minutes until I need to jump to another call, so I'll get us started. First, I'd like to ask you a couple questions about your current situation. After that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have, and we can work together to see if it's something you might want to try. Sound fair enough? The reason why we do things that way is because, one, we get to state the rules of the game and gain their consent to play. We explain exactly what's going to happen on the call, helps them feel safe, helps contain it, give people like a sense of where they are, a sense of groundedness that will help them make a decision. And we ask them for their consent, like, are you cool with this? Can we do it? Once they say yes, then that gives you the confidence to be able to conduct the rest of the call without worrying that things will fly off the rails. Again, standardizing this part of the call is super helpful because when you get your form right and consistent, that's how you make progress over time. And lastly, this reveals problem prospects early on. Some people will hear you say sound fair enough, and they'll say something like, I'm busy right now, or yeah, sorry, I'm in the car. You might overhear that they're in traffic or they're getting distracted, in which case you want to reschedule right then. Don't even get to the rest of the script. Don't try to fight an uphill battle to make this close. Similarly, they might say, oh, yeah, I've actually got a meeting in 10 minutes. And we know that's not really enough time to help them get through the whole decision making process. So we might just reschedule them right then and there. We don't want to try to chase them or anything like that. We know we need 15 to 25 minutes to be able to walk them through this whole process. And it just doesn't make sense. It's not respectful to either of us or either of our time to try to sprint through it in 10 minutes just to have them say, well, I've got to go now because I've got another meeting. So just reschedule them right then and there. And then sometimes they might just be a jerk. They might just try to take control or fight you for control. They might just not be in the mood to go along with our framing. They might push against it or try to dominate us with countering right then and there. And if there's going to be conflict right at the beginning of the call, that's usually a yellow flag or even a red flag. Sometimes experienced salespeople will know how to neutralize this, and if you're confident in dealing with that, then do whatever you like. But for me personally, if somebody responds negatively to my framing and I can't just reschedule them easily, if they just seem like they want to push me around or whatever, that might just be a sign that it's not going to be a good fit, and I'll just move on. Oftentimes with that kind of business owner, even if I could close them, I could get them to a decision based on the value of my offer. It's kind of, not a good sign. It doesn't bode well for client management issues in the future, and it might just not be somebody who I really want to work with. So you can follow your own nose on that. But welcome and framing in any case provides a great litmus test just to make sure that we're all on the same page about where they're at, that they have enough time, that they're ready to go through this call, and they're ready to kind of follow our lead. And hopefully, as in most cases, they'll just say, yeah, that does sound fair enough, and then we can move on to qualification. Qualification is the part where we ask questions of them, and I'm going to give you a really easy way to do it. There's all different types of ways to try to lead somebody down the path toward the decision-making process, but we are just going to do a couple quantitative questions and try to make this a very rational decision for them. Ultimately, sales decisions are not made by the rational mind, they are made emotionally. But we use logic and reasoning to justify those decisions, and it can be a really helpful place to at least start, especially as a salesperson, just to kind of give your sales process some structure. So we're going to go after 3 things here. We're going to try to figure out how many phone calls do you typically miss in a week, what's your close rate from an inbound call, and how much is the average new sale worth to you. Again, there's all sorts of other directions we could go, more information that could only help us in what's called a needs analysis, but this is a nice, very introductory way to think about things. Now, some of the principles here, we want to use the language of the industry. So if it's medical, we might say patients, so on and so forth. Some of the questions your prospect won't even know the answer to, and that's okay. If you ask them how many calls do you miss in a week, and they say, I don't know, don't worry about it. Don't put any pressure on them, but try to have them at least estimate. Okay, no big deal. If you had to guess, do you worry that you miss a lot of calls? Do you think it's maybe 10 or more? That sort of thing. And just see if you can have them use their numbers. But that is an important thing. You want to use numbers that they give you, have them answer the question, so that way they're on the hook for the conclusions that we reach about their situation in their business. This is about them. This isn't about us. And then lastly, the real point here is take notes and try to nail down how much money they're throwing away. That's the real conclusion. We want to get this to a dollar sign. That's going to make it really clear the value, at least from a logical reasoning perspective. It'll be clear what the value of our offer really is if we can get to this final dollar value of how much money they're throwing away. Once we have that information, once we have at least a ballpark idea of a conservative estimate of just about how much money they are losing every month based on just missing inbound calls, now we're ready for the pitch, and we're going to pitch them in 3 or 2 sections. Here are the 3 sections: the recap, the demo, and the ask. The reason why we say 2 is because in your prospecting and on your website, there's already a way to demo the AI employee via calling your demo voice AI agent. And so if they've already done that, there's no need to do it again, or they can do it again. It's kind of just up to you to feel that out. Make sure you understand once you get on the call if they've already done it or not. That's probably good information to have before you even get on the call. But even if you don't know, you can just get to that point and ask, did you have a chance to demo the bot yet? And then if they say yes or no, you can, move accordingly. But before we get to that point, we want to start with the recap. And this is where it's really important, again, to use their numbers so that we help them reach the conclusion that they're implying about their revenue right now. So we say something like, Just to recap here, every week you said you have 5 to 10 missed calls with a 50% conversion to sale and a $300 average sale value. Do I have that right? They'll say something like yes. If they don't say yes here, make sure that you get the clarity on that. You want agreement and you want to be using their numbers. So hopefully they told you these numbers and you're just kind of double confirming. So if we take the low end of that, let's say it's just 5 calls a week that you miss. Out of those 5 calls, if you were to have fielded them and your normal close rate had applied to them, that's 2.5. Let's round down. Let's say it's about 2 calls that would have become sales that you're currently missing each week. We multiply that by $300 a sale on average. It looks like you're missing about $600 each week in revenue from missed calls right now, and that's over $2,400 a month. Does that sound about right to you? And if they say no, again, go back. Okay, let's rework that then. You said you miss about 5 calls, 50% close rate times 300. Which of those numbers might be wrong, or do you think you miss fewer calls than that, or do you not close as well, which is also something we could help with. But at any rate, basically, you just want to make sure that they agree to this. That $2,400 a month in this example with these numbers is crucial to the reasoning, the math logic of us trying to make the sale. So assuming that they say yes, we will go on. But if they say no, or if there's any confusion, then do not pass go, do not collect $200, do not move on from this step until you have a dollar amount that is per month, the revenue that their business is losing by missing inbound phone calls. One note about this too is that a lot of business owners haven't thought in these terms before, and this might be kind of a depressing moment for them. They are staring this failure in the face. They're missing $2,500 a month in this revenue. Just in this example, sometimes it can be a lot more. And so you want to just be sympathetic, be careful and sensitive to their feelings, but again, we don't want to back off from having them acknowledge that they're losing money when they're missing calls. That's kind of the bottom line here. So we say, okay, that makes total sense. I see an opportunity for us to help you here. As I think you kind of understand, our system uses AI that answers the phone, fields a live conversation with your leads, scoops up all the would-be missed calls before they go to a competitor, and it'll save you a significant portion of that $2,400 a month. Can I show you how it works? And again, if they've already done the demo, then we can skip the demo. They'll say, yeah, oh, I had a chance to talk to it. It was great. Or I had this issue with it. Or can I do this? They might get straight into questions, whatever. But if they haven't gone through the demo yet, have them do it, even live on that Zoom call. Okay, do you have your phone on you? Great. Go ahead and call this number. I'm going to put it into the chat, blah, blah, blah. Watch them demo the Voice AI live. And at the end of the demo, you just say, all right, now you know how it works. What questions do you have for me? And just let them have control now. So we've been kind of in control of this whole call so far, and now we want to intentionally give it over to them, which helps build trust and rapport even more, and also just opens them up to get all of their questions answered, to start to release some of the emotions that they might have around this buying decision that is there's pressure building up towards. They know they're missing out on revenue. They're hopefully becoming increasingly certain that this is going to be a solution and helping them recapture at least some portion of that revenue. And the pieces are starting to fall into place, but we just want to leave it open to them to finish putting those pieces in. Any pieces that are missing, we can rely on them to make us aware of so that we can deal with them. And we're going to keep on answering questions and asking, what other questions do you have? Like answer, answer, answer. Does that make sense? What other questions do you have? We're going to keep on doing that no matter how many questions they do have until they finally ask how much. And in reality, assuming that the demo goes well and they kind of understand the value positioning, most of the time they'll get to cost pretty quickly. But we want them to come to cost. We want them to be the ones who bring it up. It won't always happen that way, but if you did your sales call right, then 9 times out of 10 when they're in this place, it's going to be pretty obvious that that's kind of the elephant in the room at this point. It's the only real missing piece left, and that is right how we want things to be. So we've covered everything else. They finally ask how much, and now we get to the good stuff. Price. And first of all, if they ask how much does this cost, if we've answered like 10 questions prior to this, or it's been going on a long time, we can skip this part. But if price is like the first or second question that they ask, it's good to even get a double confirmation that there's nothing else that's missing. You say something like, good question, we'll definitely cover price, but before we do, I just want to confirm, assuming the price is good, Do you feel like this is a good fit for you? Or do you have any other questions about how the AI employee actually works or the potential value it might provide to your business? Anything like that. And we want to get them to say, no, I'm good on everything else. I just want to know price now. Of course, if you've answered 10 or so other questions, or if the call just feels like it's been going on too long, you can skip this little hurdle. But especially when it's like the first question out of their mouth, you do kind of want to make sure you give them a chance to ask other questions so that when we do get to price, we can be confident that this is kind of the last issue to handle. And once we divulge price, there is no going back. We will be dealing with price for the rest of the call. And it is very helpful to have this part scripted so that you do not have to think critically in the moment about exactly how you say price. This is a very important part of the call, and you do want to standardize this and think critically about this when you're not on the call. So spend some time now figuring out exactly how you're going to say price. This is how I recommend. The system costs just $297 a month. We don't have any discounts or flexibility on that except for one incentive, which is that we will set you up with your first 2 weeks for free so you can try it out without any risk. All we ask in return is that you say yes today and that you agree to do a testimonial interview a few weeks after so we can showcase your results. How does that sound? And then once you say that, you ask, how does that sound? You want to just sit back, relax, and hold space. Sometimes people will take time right here. They might just go straight into thinking mode. They might not respond at all, in which case, stay silent. Sometimes people will hear price and they'll just start thinking about it. They won't even respond, and that's okay. They've got a lot to think about right now, and this is a big decision. So just be patient, hold space, don't try to pressure or rush anything. Just chill out, take a breath. Everything after this point is objection handling and the ending. Now, objection handling is a whole big thing, and especially once you start selling at a higher price, there is a lot more emotion going into your prospect's decision. There's more to risk, more to lose. They start feeling their feelings more. With the price point of just $297 a month, and with this 14-day trial incentive that we have in our offer, it should do a lot to just really chill things out. And we just want to lean back on the 2-week trial kind of for all the objections, when at the end of the day, it's going to be free and they're trying it out with no risk. We just kind of want to hammer that point home almost regardless of what kind of objections they might say. So they might just say yes, in which case we can skip all this, just go to the ending. They said yes, we've onboarded a client, congratulations. They might be a hard no, which we'll talk about in the ending as well. But anything that's not a clear yes or a no, we do want to treat as an objection. A classic example of an objection is just the old, I need to think about it, to which we might say something like, okay, that's totally fair. Take all the time that you need. Do you think you'll be able to make a decision one way or another today, or is it going to be a bit longer than that? If they say, I need a few days, we might say something like, okay, totally get it. No pressure at all. Obviously, you will miss out on the quick action incentive, so you won't be able to get the 2 weeks for free, but it seems like this is going to be profitable for you either way, so I'm not too worried about it. Just curious though, is there anything that's really keeping you from taking advantage of the 2 weeks, or anything holding you back from just getting started totally for free so you can try it without any risk? Here's another classic objection. This one is a little bit more technical. Do we have to get another phone number? Ideally, you would have handled this back during the ask phase when you did the recap and then the demo, and then we're kind of talking through some of the more technical aspects of the value positioning and how the bot works, etc. But this might also come up in the objection section, and this one actually has a great answer. It's a good question, and no, you won't. We'll have your current phone forward to the AI employee so that it's just when you miss picking up the phone, then it goes to the AI employee as a fail-safe, so you keep your same phone number like normal. How does that sound? So we have some of those objections, the principles behind the objections that were present in both of those examples. So you want to start by validating their concern and make them feel safe. Something like, good question, or I understand what you're saying, or I totally get it. Next, you want to ask your own question after you answer theirs, just to make sure that you're taking care of them. So something like in my last example when I said, how does that sound? You want to make sure that they're bought into the answer. They say, yeah, that makes sense, etc. Or you can ask them, does that make sense? just to make sure that everything is kind of wrapped up with a neat little bow. And of course, if you say, how does that sound? And they say, oh, that doesn't sound so good, then of course you know that it's not wrapped up yet and you have more to talk about. And lastly, we kind of want to just lean on the trial for anything and everything. This free trial incentive is a very beginner-friendly offer for folks who are not super advanced at sales. If you know what you're doing as a salesperson, you shouldn't really need the free trial. You should be able to collect payment upfront and even potentially sell this for a lot more than $297. But the free trial really allows anyone to be able to deal with objections effectively. It's such a beautiful tool because it allows people to try stuff without risk. So anything emotionally related, if they're on the fence, if they have some sense of lack of trust or rapport, you just feel like you're not quite jiving, you just want to say, is there any way I can help you get to a confident decision today so you can start getting results without any risk? And if they're going to say no to that, it's pretty clear they're probably not going to be somebody who says yes in the future and pays full price either. Although sometimes people do. I have seen sales made with fast action incentives that were rejected, and then a few days later, the sale at full price was actually made. But in most cases, this 2-week trial is really the thing where if they're on the fence, it's just going to push them over the edge. And so with all of that said, one way or another, we will make it to the end of the call. There's a couple different ways the call can end. One can be a hard no. Maybe they don't even have any objections. You just share price and they say hard no. In which case, gather market feedback, take notes, ask them why. Don't do it in a way that pressures them or is going to try to manipulate them. Sometimes it's an objection that you actually realize that can be handled, but most of the time we're just curious. We want to know how to take this experience into our next call to make our next call better. So we take notes, gather market feedback, thank them for their time, and then end the call. If they're a no, they're a no, and that's okay. Nothing you can do. Ending number 2 is reschedule or timeline to decide. Sometimes they just have to think about it. They cannot be pushed over the edge with the 2-week trial, in which case we say, all right, well, I want to give you all the time you need. When do you think you can let me know by? We want to get their commitment to let us know by a certain time. I need by Wednesday, or I need by end of day tomorrow, or I need 1 week, etc. Whatever it is, we just kind of want to have a sense of where they're actually at and if they're actually going to decide. Sometimes you might ask, when do you think you might let me know by? And their response makes it kind of clear that they're just kind of saying no, but they don't have the courage to actually say no. So they're saying they want to think about it. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes they also just have to talk to someone else about it, a spouse or a business partner. They're not going to make a decision without them, in which case you can try to have them reschedule so that the partner can join them. And sometimes you can kind of renew the fast action incentive. Hey, if we have another call where I can have your partner demo it, etc., we might still be able to get you this 2-week trial. In general, though, you don't want to fight, you don't want to pressure, you don't want to beg, and you do want to be prepared to keep your word and skip the trial in any case other than a yes on the call. Obviously, it is your decision and your responsibility as to whether or not you ever make exceptions to the rule. Oh, if you can let me know by end of day today, we could say that was still a decision same day and still get you the 2-week trial, etc. Work with your prospects in whatever way you find to be most representative of your business and whatever way you're ready to take full responsibility over. But in general, there's a lot of value to the integrity of being able to say, look, the incentive is for people who are ready to say yes right away. I actually had an old sales mentor who used to love to say live on the call to his prospects, he would use the line, the absence of a yes is a no to me. And is a very powerful thing to say. The absence of a yes is a no to me, so I won't be able to give you the discount. Sometimes you will lose a sale or two that way, but sometimes you may make a sale or two that way. And in any case, it's usually a much better formula for not losing sleep at night and knowing that you are staying true to your word and that you have integrity with your sales process. And of course, the last ending, the ending that we love, is yes. When we get a yes, we want to send them the checkout link and have them check out before the call is over. You should have a extra, if you followed our process, then you have one link for no trial and then a secret link for a trial. Send them the link with the trial, double confirm that they know they're going to get charged 2 weeks from today. This is still like a real sale. They're just not getting charged today. They will put their card info in, etc. And then once they submit that, they'll actually land on the onboarding call calendar page. You want to have them schedule that right away, ideally for the next day or that same week, sometime really soon. Obviously, there is a lot to cover on the onboarding call, but what a lot of people don't understand is that the onboarding call is also an extension of the sales process. When we can end the sales call knowing that we have the onboarding call scheduled, it's great for momentum. It's great for assuring and reassuring our prospect that they're making the right decision, makes them feel well taken care of. They know what the next step is. They just need to show up for their onboarding call, and we'll just keep moving forward from there. It also does a lot to ensure that they actually do show up for their onboarding call, right? The worst sales nightmare in the world is to make a sale and then that person never actually schedules their onboarding. They stall out and then they never actually get set up and they end up being a refund. I'm sure experienced salespeople watching this video, I just ruined their day with that idea because it happens to the best of us, but do not let it happen to you. The best way to not let that happen to you is to just make sure it's scheduled before you even hang up the sales call. Once those pieces are taken care of, thank them for their time and end the meeting. Now, very quickly, before I end, let's just go through some advanced techniques. It is possible to leverage your experience into some more specific stats. So we do know, and you should have this stat on hand, that the national average for missed calls is about 40%, but you might, in the context of the conversation on the sales call, say, yeah, the national average is about 40%, but for most of our clients, we know that in our industry, it's closer to 60 or 65. Similarly, you might develop confidence in actually helping people close better when the AI, voice AI does a better job than voicemail of ascertaining the situation and gathering contact info and their issues, etc. That can actually help the sales process, build momentum in the sales process, make the prospect feel better taken care of. So you might actually increase sales numbers with the implementation of the voice AI agent. And you might say something like what you see up on the screen. But the real moneymaker is case studies. As you gain experience, you should be asking every single one of your clients for testimonials or the opportunity to interview them on a Zoom call to see what their results are like. And you want to be documenting that process. Ask them these 3 questions. What was your business doing before we started working together? What is your business like now? And what would you say to someone who is considering partnering with us, but they're on the fence? If you can ask every single one of your clients those 3 questions, you will have the best marketing content machine in the world. This is the most powerful sales tool maybe ever, and it gives you the ability to say something like, we just did an interview with John over in Memphis, and they finished their first month with over $1,000 in saved revenue from the AI employee. And in an ideal scenario, you have like 5 or 6 of these. Susan in New York owns a chiropractic business just like yours, was struggling. They came to us and implemented the voice AI, and they made however many $1,000s in their first month. When you can share real, true, powerful stories of results that you've gotten for clients who look just like the prospect you're talking to, that is an incredible, incredible advantage to have. And it's what allows you to sell without needing a 2-week trial. It's what allows you to double or triple your price. Those things come with confidence and the demonstration of results. So you want to make sure you're demonstrating those results and that you're documenting those results. Of course, there are many more sales techniques that we could get into, but that seems plenty for now. So my last question is, are you ready to take your first sales call? Hopefully the answer to that is yes, and that you are going to continue in your prospecting efforts. And now, armed with this beautiful sales system, you're going to go get a couple free trials so you can start getting some results with the AI employee. Assuming that that is the case, then you can go ahead and move on to the next module.